Hello YouTube, this is Western Kansas Prepper here with a little road video. And driving down a Kansas highway here. A little bit of a Kansas sunset. We don't get a lot of things that are nice in Kansas, but one thing that's nice is our sunsets. A couple thoughts on some current events this week in the news. I don't usually do these news commentaries, but given my topics, I just thought it was appropriate. One of them, if you didn't know, yesterday Kansas was hit by a series of tornadoes. I'll try to keep that steady a little bit. And it was hit in Wichita, it was hit in Salina, homes around Hutchinson, just destroyed. Then what they said was did $283 million of damage in Wichita. Where I live, a little further west, it didn't get hit. Although, you know, we were definitely on a watch. But, you know, I thought about that. For all these people out there, they're like, whoa, preppers are crazy. You know, it's just, they're insane. They should be put on watch lists. They're nutty. You know, I just think it, you know, at least where I live and where a lot of people live, you know, these are events that can occur to you that don't have anything to do with some kind of apocalyptic scenario, you know. The tornadoes weren't the apocalypse. But every one of those people, if they're in their homes, when those tornadoes struck, they've been better off with a reinforced storm shelter or some type of secure shelter, and they'd be better off if they had a lot of supplies right now in that shelter. Because right now, probably most of their stuff is gone, it's destroyed, or severely limited. Also, if they had a little bug-out location to go to, that'd be good. Otherwise, they're probably staying in a hotel. Even those people that weren't hit, though, one of the neighbors of the people got hit by a tornado, those people are well equipped to assist their neighbors in this time of need. They have extra water, extra food supplies. They can give them supplies out of their bug out and out of their shelter to the neighbors that they feel like need some help. So, you know, yeah, maybe they were prepping for other reasons, or maybe that wasn't their primary reason, was it to get struck by a tornado. But, you know, it's just another reason to do it. I mean, tornado shelters are pretty commonplace here in western Kansas. I mean, not enough people have them, but plenty do. And you really need to have one. You need to have it stocked up. Same if you live on the coast, you know. I mean, at least on the Gulf Coast or the East Coast, you know, southern East Coast, you need to have some preparations for hurricanes, you know. And some of those preparations overlap with preparing for other events like massive inflation or some type of rebellion, or perhaps a nuclear event, or maybe some type of viral outbreak. Yeah, I mean, you're going to need some of the same supplies. So, you know, a lot of the things you get are going to be things that also assist you in having a tornado shelter. So, or a hurricane shelter, or whatever you want to do. Usually it's not a really good way to shelter a hurricane, I guess. I don't live in that part of the country, but I think you just got to get the hell out of there. But anyway, so, you know, that just, like I say, it just reminded me of how silly it is when I hear these people say how crazy these people must be who were preparing. You know, not everything's about the apocalypse. So, let me slow down here before I get a ticket. Anyway, you know, what's the other thing in the news I want to comment on? I don't know, everybody, I've seen a lot of preppers commenting on this George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin shooting. I've been kind of reluctant to get into it because I think a lot of people, it has just so much of this racial baggage with it, you know, that I just think it tends to set people off, get the triggers going, and I don't really have a lot of interest in doing that because I just don't tend to see things in terms of race very much. I just don't care much about racial issues. You know, I just treat everybody like I want to be treated, and then there aren't any problems, you know. I mean, that's really all you need to do in life. If you treat people that way, then it doesn't really matter what race they are. But as far as this particular event goes, I got to admit I got a few concerns. And one of my main concerns I have is that, you know, the police in this town, and I forget the name of the town in Florida, I really haven't followed the details that closely, but the police in Florida They brought the case and the facts to the prosecutor in Florida, state attorney, who I didn't get the impression was a rookie attorney, just gotten there or something. And they presented the facts to him, and this prosecutor said, you know, no thanks. At this point, I don't think you give me enough to prove this guy wasn't defending himself. I mean, maybe he wasn't, but I don't know if I can prove that beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury. I don't think it's going to happen. So they declined to prosecute. Now, I have some insight into these issues. That's why I'm commenting the way I am, but because I've been around the legal system, not in jail, but I've been on the other side of the system. Anyway, so then there's all this press. You know, why didn't they arrest the guy? Which they did arrest him, they just released him. Why didn't they charge him, you know, that night? Why didn't they, if he was black, they would have charged him, all this stuff. I don't know. You know, people can guess if this and if that all they want. My concern is, you know, things started happening when the Justice Department, DOJ, started saying, we need to start looking at this for civil rights violations. And these officers, you know, they've been reluctant to charge some crimes against minorities in the past. We're going to look at the prosecutors here and see if they've been reluctant to charge things. And we're going to look to see if, you know, this police chief needs to step down. So that's when everybody started getting tense. Things started getting different. That's when they finally said, okay, screw it. We're going to assign a special prosecutor from essentially the State Attorney General's office. And they're going to prosecute this case. And she didn't even go through with the grand jury indictment. So, you know, here's my concern. Federal prosecutors aren't scalp collectors. What I mean by that is they're not real big on notching wins on their belt and moving along. That's not really the federal game. The federal game is more to make headlines. It's way more political than the state entities are, comparatively. So, these state prosecutors are about winning cases. And if they don't think that it's a winnable case, they're either not going to prosecute it, they're going to cut a deal, they're going to do something. You'll see federal prosecutors all the time. You got them against Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. They got, you know, not guilties or hung juries. They were trying to prosecute Blagojevich from Illinois. They got a hung jury on almost everything the first time on that one. Eventually got him convicted. But, you know, we had this CEO in Kansas, David Wittig, who cheated people out of millions, and hung juries on everything on the first trial, hung juries again on the second trial, and the third trial it was dismissed. So, you know, but you watch federal headlines, they're doing this stuff all the time. We had a genocide trial in Wichita, not guilty. We had a cigarette trial against one of the tobacco companies here in Kansas last year, not guilty. These guys don't do a lot of trials. They make a lot of agreements, a lot of plea agreements, because the federal guidelines are such that it encourages people to make these agreements. So they're not really a lot of awesome seasoned trial prosecutors in this federal role sometimes. So when I'm looking at state prosecutors who are saying, I don't know about this, the federal prosecutors are like, let's go get it, I'm a little worried that the facts may not be there. The evidence may not be there when all is said and done. You know, I've seen cases where, you know, there have been plenty of witnesses to something happening, and you still didn't get a guilty verdict. As far as I know, in this shooting between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, there were no direct eyewitnesses to this crime, other than George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin's dead, so therefore he can't, and he didn't relay his experience to anyone, so that testimony is not available. Zimmerman may not testify at all, but have his statements to the police, which portray him as defending himself. Nobody else saw anything. Everything else is inferences from a couple of calls, maybe what was on his shirt stains or whatever when he saw the police. They have a bloody nose. You know, people are looking at nuances in the phone calls about, oh, when did he say, you know, stop chasing him or whatever, stop going after him, and when did he stop? Nobody knows these things. Nobody has the facts on that stuff. So I'm real skeptical here as to proof beyond a reasonable doubt on a state court level that you're going to prove an intentional murder up on this, second-degree murder, when there's nobody who would witness this, and, you know, your intent is based on some sort of speculation on the phone calls. You know, people can get on the media and yell, this guy's a racist, he targeted him. Maybe he did. That's entirely possible that he did. But believing this is possible and proving it beyond a reasonable doubt in court are two different things. And at least from what we've seen in the media, if you would truly impanel a jury who knows nothing about this stuff, nothing about this case, or very little about the case, I don't see a jury, based on what we have so far, finding anybody guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of second-degree murder. Now, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe there's facts that the prosecutors aren't sharing, which they don't have to. They don't really shouldn't at this point, that we'll find out later. Prosecutors have an obligation not to make statements in public that would prejudice the trial. And so they may have things they're wanting to say that they can't say because the rules prohibit them from saying that. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical, and, you know, we'll see. We'll see if those statements come out or not. And I'm pretty skeptical myself that that's going to happen. So we'll see. Give me your thoughts, I guess. We won't know anything. It'll take a year before we have a trial, I'm sure. So we'll find out then, I guess. Anyway, those are my thoughts on a couple of issues: tornadoes and Trayvon Martin. Give me a comment or video response or whatever. Let me know what you think. Later.